She refused a black CEO's hand overnight. Her $2B empire crumbled. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. You don't deserve a handshake. The words hit the glass-walled boardroom like a gavel. Silence followed cold, sharp, deliberate. Across the table, Maya Carter's hand hung midair. Unmoved, her beige suit looked too simple for the room where blue ties and silver pens gleamed like armor. 6 executives in Navy stared at her as if she'd just broken the order of things. The woman who said it, Clara Whitmore, chief financial officer, stood tall, her palm frozen in refusal. She didn't blink. The corner of her mouth lifted, just enough to make the insult look professional. "You're out of line," Maya said softly. Not loud, just steady. The air tightened. A projector hummed in the background. Outside, the city pulsed 20 stories below. Inside, everyone waited to see if Maya would lower her hand first. She didn't. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Maya. Her hand was still out, the kind of gesture that tests character, not etiquette. Clara leaned back in her chair. Let's not pretend we're equals here. The line landed heavier than it sounded. A few of the men exchanged smirks. One whispered, "Guess someone forgot her title." Another checked his watch like the meeting had already lost meaning. Maya heard it all, but her eyes never left Clara. "You said that to me?" she murmured. "In a building built on my company's contract." Clara frowned. "Excuse me?" Maya smiled barely. "Nothing. Let's proceed." She sat down, calm as marble, folding her hands over a folder marked Confidential Merger, $2, 4B. Clara straightened her blazer. "You'll address me as CFO Whitmore. This is my boardroom." "No," Maya replied, still quiet. "This is our boardroom. You just haven't realized who we includes yet." The room stirred. A low rustle of shifting suits and whispered guesses. No one asked her name. Not yet. The clock on the wall clicked to 9:03 a.m. Somewhere in the silence, a camera blinked red, a security recording no one would notice until much later. Maya looked around the table. 6 faces, 1 tone. Doubt wrapped in professionalism. She'd seen it before at 23 when a recruiter said she didn't fit the image. At 31 when an investor assumed she was an assistant. And now again at 42, in a room financed by her own portfolio. She adjusted the pen beside her notes, the smallest movement in a field of stillness. Every story has a spark. This one began with an unshaken hand. And before the hour ended, that hand would decide who still had a seat at this table. The next slide on the screen glowed faint blue. Merger structure, phase 2. Numbers filled the wall, but no one was really reading them. The only thing anyone noticed was how calmly Maya sat back, fingers laced, breathing slow, eyes still on Clara. She didn't rush to defend herself. She didn't need to. The quiet was doing the work. The assistant at the far end of the table, Lucas, shifted in his chair, unsure whether to continue the presentation. The tension pressed down like humidity before a storm. Maya finally spoke. "Continue," she said softly. "I want to understand what I'm investing in." Clara's brow furrowed. "Investing?" Her voice carried a note of irritation, the kind that comes from someone used to being the most powerful person in the room. Maya leaned forward, her tone still even. "That's what we're all doing here, right? Investing in the company, in each other." Clara forced a small laugh. "Cute. But this is a serious discussion about a $2.4 billion acquisition, not a workshop on teamwork." Maya smiled faintly. "Then you should take it seriously." Her words hung there, soft but heavy. The kind of softness that doesn't yield, it absorbs. Behind Clara, the window stretched wide, revealing the city skyline silver towers glinting against the morning haze. The room felt colder now. Someone coughed. Someone else tapped a pen just to make a sound. The CEO chair at the head of the table sat empty. That was by design. No one knew the owner would be present today. Lucas tried to move the meeting forward. "If we look at the capital distribution for..." Clara cut him off. We'll skip that. I don't think Miss Carter needs to be involved in this level of detail. Miss Carter, a deliberate downgrade. Maya didn't respond. She opened the folder in front of her. Inside, the first page read, Carter Holdings, Parent Authorization Signature Line. She slid her finger lightly across the edge of the paper, as if memorizing the future she already owned. At the other end, one of the directors, a gray-haired man named Pierce, leaned over to whisper, "You know who invited her?" Another shrugged. "Probably PR. They've been pushing diversity optics lately." The line hit harder than they meant it to. Maya heard every syllable. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was data collection. Every glance, every word, she was recording it in the calmest part of her mind. Clara leaned forward again, clasping her hands. "Let's move on. We'll finalize signatures after the real stakeholders arrive." Maya tilted her head. "The real ones?" Clara's lips twitched into a polite half-smile, those with actual authority. The phrase echoed like a challenge, and for a moment the air itself seemed to hold its breath. Maya exhaled slowly. "I see," she said. "Then let's wait for them together." The lights hummed. The projector flickered, and for a heartbeat, no one spoke. That's when Lucas, the quiet assistant, finally found his courage. "Miss Whitmore," he said carefully, "I think Miss Carter might actually—" Clara shot him a look sharp enough to stop his sentence mid-air. But the seed was planted. The first crack in the illusion of hierarchy had appeared. Maya closed her folder and rested both hands flat on the table. The gesture was simple, still, composed. Yet it shifted the power in the room just slightly, like gravity leaning her way. No one knew it yet, but the meeting had already changed course. And while Clara clung to her title, Maya was already 3 moves ahead, sitting in silence, waiting for the moment the truth would need no introduction at all. The clock on the far wall ticked to 9:14 a.m. The hum of the air vent filled the pauses no one dared to break. Clara flipped through the slides with the impatience of someone reclaiming lost control. Her voice sharpened. "Let's be efficient," she said. "We don't need every consultant commenting on strategy." Her words weren't directed at anyone specific, but everyone understood. Maya remained still, back straight, eyes lowered to the glass table. The reflections in that table told the whole story. 6 suits leaning away from her, 1 woman glaring down at her, and 1 assistant staring at the floor, torn between truth and fear. From the hallway came the soft ping of the elevator, someone arriving. Heads turned, but no one entered. Just a sound. Then silence again. Clara cleared her throat. "Before we continue, I want everyone's alignment on this merger. We've put 3 years into negotiations, and I don't want unnecessary opinions derailing it." The word unnecessary hit like a quiet blade. One director, Thomas Reeves, chuckled under his breath. "She means, keep the floor clear of distractions." Laughter followed a low, contained ripple, meant to sound polite but dripping with condescension. Maya lifted Hargaze. "You're assuming my presence is a distraction," she said, "but maybe it's the test you weren't prepared for." The room stilled. Clara smiled thinly. "I admire your confidence, Miss Carter, but this is a space for decision-makers, and I'm here to see how those decisions are made," Maya replied. Clara's tone hardened. "If you're auditing us, do it quietly. This isn't a classroom." Maya tilted her head slightly. "No, it's not. It's a mirror." No one moved for a full second. Lucas's fingers froze over the keyboard. His eyes flicked toward Maya, then back to Clara. The air was so tight it seemed to hum. Clara leaned forward. "Do you know how much money is at stake today?" Maya nodded. "Exactly $2.4 billion. How would you know that?" Maya smiled faintly. "I read the numbers before I invest in people." Pierce shifted in his seat. "So you're some kind of investor?" Maya didn't answer. Instead, she glanced at the portfolio beside him. "That report you're holding is missing, Appendix D. You should ask Clara why." Pierce blinked. "Appendix D?" Lucas turned pale. He knew what it contained: internal compliance notes that hadn't been shared with external partners. Clara's jaw tightened. "That's confidential." Maya's voice was calm, almost kind. "So am I." A soft laugh escaped from one of the younger analysts before he quickly covered his mouth. The hierarchy trembled for a moment, small, but enough for everyone to feel it. Clara rose from her chair. "Let's be clear. You were invited as an observer, not a decision-maker." Maya stood too, slow and deliberate. "Observation changes everything. The moment you're watched, the truth starts to move." The statement landed like thunder under velvet. Outside the glass wall, rain began to trace lines down the window pane. The weather had turned without anyone noticing. Inside, Clara stepped closer. "If you think sitting quietly gives you power, you're mistaken." Maya met her gaze. "No, sitting quietly shows who already had it." The lights above flickered once. A brief tremor through the building's power grid. No one spoke. Then, a soft vibration on the table Maya's phone, face down, screen pulsing once before going dark again. Clara frowned. "Do you need to take that?" Maya shook her head. "Not yet." The storm outside deepened. A single drop of water slid down the glass, cutting through the reflection of Clara's face like a scar. Everyone could feel it now, the shift they couldn't name, the order quietly unraveling. The meeting wasn't just about numbers anymore. It was about who truly owned the silence. Lucas had been silent for 20 minutes. He'd typed notes, adjusted the projector, and tried to shrink inside his gray suit as if invisibility could save him. But the more Clara spoke, the more his stomach tightened. He knew what was hidden in those files, what had been quietly removed. Clara turned toward the window as if to command the city itself. "So," she said briskly, "we'll close this deal once our board chair signs off. Until then, Miss Carter, feel free to observe. We're not in the business of over-explaining." She smiled, polished, efficient, merciless. Maya stayed seated, fingers interlaced, expression unreadable. "Observation's enough," she said. "It reveals everything people try to hide." A ripple of discomfort passed across the table. The younger directors looked anywhere but at her. Thomas Reeves leaned back, tapping his pen on the folder marked confidential. Lucas swallowed hard. He wanted to speak. He really did. But the room was thick with hierarchy, and Clara's glare had its own gravity. Pierce laughed quietly. "You're intense, Miss Carter. That's not always a compliment in rooms like this." Maya's eyes softened. "That depends on what kind of rooms you build." That was the first moment Pierce didn't know what to say. The lights buzzed faintly. The storm outside grew heavier, drops streaking down the glass like the city was watching. Maya turned toward the screen. "Can we go back to the opening slide?" she asked. Lucas's fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Clara waved dismissively. "We've moved past that." "I'd like to see it again," Maya said. "It's irrelevant," Clara snapped. Maya didn't respond. She just looked at Lucas, steady, patient, without a hint of pressure, and something in that look gave him permission he didn't know he was waiting for. His hand moved. Click. The first slide reappeared. Vandermeer Holdings, acquisition of Carter Holdings parent company. For a second, the room froze. Clara blinked. "That's not the version we—" Lucas interrupted, voice trembling. "It's the official file name in the internal drive, ma'am. It auto-syncs from the parent directory." He immediately regretted speaking. His voice cracked the quiet like glass. Everyone turned toward him. Clara's stare cut straight through his composure. "Lucas," she said evenly, "that's not your place." He nodded quickly, palms sweating. I just thought you'd want accuracy." Maya leaned forward slightly. "Accuracy is always welcome." The words were simple, but her tone wrapped them in command. Clara forced a dry laugh. "Cute. Our IT team sometimes mislabels things. Happens all the time." "Does it?" Maya asked. "Or do names just reveal who really owns the floor we're standing on?" Silence. Even the rain paused for a breath. Thomas Reeves whispered, "Wait, Carter Holdings? As in—" He didn't finish. Clara cut him off. "Ignore it. She's here under consultation, not control." But Lucas couldn't unsee the header. The words parent company glowed on the screen like quiet truth waiting its turn. He looked at Maya again. Her posture was calm, but her eyes steady, focused, knowing told him she'd seen the same corruption he had. Clara closed the laptop. "We're done here." "No," Maya said softly. "We're not." She reached for her pen and wrote something across her folder, then looked up. "Lucas," she said gently, "thank you." His throat tightened. "For what?" "For reminding them that data never lies. People do." Clara's voice cracked through the air. "You're out of line." Maya smiled. "You said that already, but I'm still here." The storm outside broke open. Thunder rolled against the glass like applause. No one in that room realized it yet, but the balance had shifted. The first witness had spoken, and once truth is heard, it never goes quiet again. Thunder rolled over the city like a verdict. Rain struck the glass in sheets. muting the skyline until it became just light and noise. Inside the boardroom, no one breathed. The last thing Clara expected was resistance, but there it was, seated calmly across from her, wearing a quiet smile that didn't fade. "Enough," Clara said, her voice brittle. "This meeting is over." Maya didn't move. "I didn't hear a vote." "You don't get one," Clara snapped. "You're not part of this board." That was the line, the one that sliced through the room more deeply than she knew. Lucas looked down, pretending to check his laptop, but his reflection in the screen showed panic. Pierce rubbed his temples. Thomas whispered something about ending this before it got messy. Maya stood, slowly, chair legs gliding back over the marble floor. The room seemed to tilt with her movement. "Miss Whitmore," she said quietly, "you've made a decision based on how I look, not on what I lead." Clara rolled her eyes. "Don't make this personal." "It became personal," Maya said, "the moment you refused my hand." Clara stepped closer, defiance in every click of her heels. "You don't intimidate me." "I wouldn't try," Maya replied. "Intimidation's a tool for those without authority." The air between them crackled not just tension, but history. And that's when the memory surfaced, uninvited, vivid, cruelly familiar. 15 years earlier, another room, another table. Maya, 27. Candidate for a leadership role in a logistics firm. She'd walked in early, portfolio in hand, heart steady with preparation. The hiring manager, a man in a Navy suit, looked up from her resume and smiled thinly. "You've got the credentials," he said, "but our clients prefer someone who looks more established." She'd smiled back then too, politely, like good manners could hold dignity together. He never called her again. The shame of that moment had burned long enough to forge steel. Now, standing in front of Clara, she recognized the same look, the same dismissal, masked as professionalism. Only this time, Maya didn't shrink. She took one step closer, the storm's reflection flickering across her face. "You remind me of someone," she said. "Someone who thought I'd stay small so they could stay comfortable." Clara's jaw tightened. "What do you want, Maya?" Maya's reply came measured, almost gentle. "Accountability." Pierce stood up. "Ladies, maybe we take a break." "Sit down, Mr. Reeves," Maya said, not raising her voice. "We're almost at the truth." He sat her instinctively. The projector light flickered again, catching Clara's face in harsh contrast. She looked less like an executive now, more like someone realizing control was slipping grain by grain. Maya reached for the folder again, sliding it across the table. The paper whispered against the glass. "You've spent 3 years negotiating a merger you never fully understood," she said, "because you assumed no one above you would notice." Clara's voice dropped to a whisper. "What are you talking about?" "The parent company," Maya said. "The one whose name your assistant revealed." She let the silence breathe. "That company owns Vandermeer Holdings. Every asset, every building, including this one." Clara's lips parted, but no words came. Outside, lightning flashed a jagged pulse that illuminated Maya's face like a truth revealed by the sky itself. Maya lowered her gaze, almost tenderly. "You said I don't have a vote. You were right. I have something better." What's that?" Clara managed. "Ownership." The word landed heavier than thunder. And though the room stayed perfectly still, everyone felt it, the shift, the collapse of assumption, the unraveling of hierarchy that had ruled the air. For the first time, Clara stepped back. Not from fear, but from the realization that she had misjudged something far larger than a woman's title. Maya's voice softened again. "Every empire falls the same way, Clara. Not when someone shouts, but when the wrong person stays silent too long." The storm outside roared in answer. Inside, no one dared to move, because they all knew the breaking point had arrived. The storm had no intention of stopping. Lightning flashed through the skyline like a pulse, illuminating the boardroom every few seconds. The city below blurred into streaks of light, while inside, the tension found a rhythm of its own. Clara stood frozen near the end of the table. Her voice had vanished. The only sound now was the soft buzz of the projector and the rain sliding down the glass like time itself, slow, unstoppable. Maya reached into her jacket pocket, pulled out her phone, and pressed one button. She didn't look at the screen. "Carla," she said calmly, "initiate Protocol 9. Board verification, full audit, lock authorization." A pause. Then a voice crackled softly through the speaker, female, crisp, efficient. "Confirmed, Miss Carter. Executing system lock. All accounts verifying ownership path. Lucas's eyes widened. System lock? He whispered, mostly to himself. Clara blinked, trying to recover authority. Excuse me, what are you doing? Maya looked up at her, correcting a narrative. Clara laughed once, too loud, too nervous. You can't just walk in here and expose the truth? Maya finished. I think I just did. Across the table, Pierce checked his phone. His corporate access had frozen mid-refresh. The company dashboard displayed a new banner in blue text. Ownership verification pending. Carter Holdings parent system. What the hell? He muttered. Thomas leaned toward him, whispering, Is this a stunt? Maya turned her gaze toward the screen where the frozen slide still glowed. 3 years, she said softly. You built projections, contracts, strategies, but not once did anyone verify who signed your funding. Clara stepped forward. You can't override company systems. That's illegal. Maya shook her head. It's not override. It's access. I'm the system's root key. That word root hung in the air like prophecy. Lucas's laptop chimed. A new notification appeared. Parent account authenticated. CEO, Maya Carter. He glanced up, stunned. Maya turned toward him. Lucas, confirm on the projector. He hesitated, glancing at Clara, then at Maya. Then he clicked. The slide changed to the company registry document. Parent entity, Carter Holdings. Majority stake, 1.3%. Registered CEO, Maya Evelyn Carter. No music, no applause, just the sound of truth landing exactly where it belonged. Clara's lips parted. No, this can't be real. Maya's expression was almost gentle. You thought silence meant absence. It meant preparation. Pierce exhaled, leaning back, muttering, She owns the board. Thomas looked at Clara. Did you know? Clara didn't answer. Maya turned her phone face down on the table. Carla, please confirm system. Wide freeze. Confirmed, the voice replied. All senior staff accounts temporarily suspended, awaiting your final authorization. Maya nodded. Stand by. She faced Clara again. This is the part where you realize titles don't build power. Behavior does. Clara's voice cracked. You tricked us. No, Maya said. You ignored me. And the rain outside softened, turning from thunderstorm to drizzle, as if even the sky needed a breath. Lucas sat back, staring at Maya with something between fear and awe. You planned this? Maya smiled faintly. I documented it. Every injustice, every email, every micro-insult, they'd all been archived, logged, time-stamped, the quiet kind of preparation that only the underestimated ever learn. Clara's tone changed, pleading now. You don't have to humiliate me. Maya shook her head. I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I'm here to remind you who you tried to erase. Her words were steady, but her eyes glistened, rage refined into purpose. From the corner of the room, Lucas whispered, She didn't raise her voice once. Maya heard him. She turned slightly and replied, Power doesn't echo, it resonates. The air was still. Every pair of eyes fixed on her, not out of fear, but recognition. This wasn't rebellion. It was correction. And though no one realized it yet, the boardroom had already changed owners. Not when the system updated, not when titles shifted, but in the moment, Maya Carter chose silence over submission. For a long moment, no one spoke. Only the rain kept moving, tiny rivers racing down the glass like the world outside was taking notes. The projector light flickered again, but no one looked away from Maya. She stood in front of the glowing screen, the blue company seal haloing her silhouette. Clara broke first. You're bluffing, she said, her voice trembling under forced calm. You think some paper trail and a name on a file make you powerful? This is my company. Maya turned slowly, eyes steady, almost compassionate. No, Clara, she said. It's my company. You just ran it like I wasn't watching. The line hit harder than any shout could have. Thomas Reeves muttered, Oh my God. Pierce sank deeper into his chair. Lucas looked like someone had just flipped a light on in a dark room he'd worked in for years. Clara forced a laugh that cracked halfway through. Even if that's true, no one here will accept your authority. Maya tilted her head slightly. Then they'll have to decide whether they'd rather lose comfort or credibility. She took a step forward, every movement deliberate. The heels of her shoes clicked softly against the marble, each one a reminder of control returned. Do you remember what you said, Clara? She continued. When I offered my hand? Clara said nothing. You said I didn't deserve a handshake. The words hung in the air like a replay, the same tone, the same coldness, but reversed in direction. Maya's gaze hardened. You called me unworthy in a company I built. There it was, the drop, the quiet explosion, the sentence that would echo through every corner of the internet once someone leaked this video. Pierce exhaled. You built this? Maya nodded once. From a 3-person startup in Atlanta. When no one would lease me an office because my last name didn't sound trustworthy. When investors said I was too young, too black, too female to lead. She looked around the table. And still, here you are working for me. The words didn't come from arrogance. They came from proof. Clara's face flushed red. You could have said something. You could have corrected me. Maya's tone softened. I wanted to see how far you'd go without respect to stop you. Lucas stared at the document on screen, the ownership chart glowing in perfect symmetry. She owns the board, he whispered again, this time with awe. Maya walked toward the center of the room. You've spent years building walls between power and people. I prefer windows. She turned toward the glass behind her, the skyline reflecting like a mirror of consequence. Because walls hide arrogance, windows show it. Ho. Clara took a step back, voice fraying. You can't fire me. I don't need to, Maya replied. The system already did. At that moment, Carla's voice came faintly through the phone on the table. Miss Carter, verification complete. All senior accounts logged, awaiting final directive. Maya didn't take her eyes off Clara. Execute terminations for cause. Notify HR freeze access. Confirmed. 3 phones vibrated almost in unison. Pierce glanced down, access revoked. Thomas's tablet locked. Clara's laptop screen turned black. The only light left came from the projector and the sky. Maya spoke again, softly but with weight that filled the room. This wasn't about vengeance. It was about clarity. You made the mistake of assuming silence meant submission. It never did. It meant strategy. Clara's lips trembled. You set me up. Maya's expression didn't change. No, you set yourself up. I just took notes. Lucas's chair creaked as he leaned forward, whispering, She didn't even raise her voice. Maya smiled faintly. Justice never needs to shout. She gathered her folder, closed it gently, and straightened her blazer. Behind her, the skyline cleared. The rain eased into a soft drizzle, and sunlight began to thread its way through the clouds. It wasn't mercy. It was mourning. The truth was now public, documented, irreversible, and in the reflection of that glass wall, Clara finally saw herself not as a leader, but as a lesson. For a moment, everything froze like time itself had taken a step back to watch what it created. The boardroom, once Clara's stage, had turned into an arena of consequences. Phones buzzed, screens dimmed, and titles vanished before their owners could process it. Pierce stared at his blank tablet in disbelief. My credentials? Revoked. Carla's voice echoed faintly through the speaker. Thomas tried logging back in, typing faster, desperate. It's an error. It has to be. Maya didn't even look at him. Errors don't repeat themselves, she said. Patterns do. Across the room, Clara was still standing, both hands on the table as if trying to steady a ship already underwater. Her reflection trembled in the glass, the image of control dissolving into something smaller, something human. You can't do this, she whispered. Maya stepped closer, her tone almost kind. You did this, Clara. Every ignored warning, every name you mispronounced on purpose, every door you closed on someone who looked like me. You built this collapse brick by brick. Clara shook her head. I was following protocol. No, Maya said, her voice calm but heavy. You were following comfort. Lucas sat still, absorbing every second. For the first time, he wasn't typing minutes, he was living them. The quiet storm of justice playing out in real time. The projector light dimmed, and on the wall appeared a single line of text. Ownership transfer complete. Maya looked up at it, then back at the room. Now it's official. Pierce stood halfway. So what happens now? Maya folded her hands. Now, we clean house. Carla's voice returned, crisp and clinical. Effective immediately, termination notices have been issued to Clara Whitmore, Thomas Reeves, and Pierce Walton. System access sealed. HR notified. Security en route. The air in the room thinned, the kind of silence that comes after a verdict, not before it. Clara tried to laugh, but it broke halfway out of her chest. You'll ruin your own reputation for this. Maya smiled faintly. Justice doesn't ruin reputations. It reveals them. Thunder rumbled somewhere in the distance, a low, approving sound. Lucas looked at Maya, awe quietly replacing fear. You planned this, he said softly. Every detail. And Maya didn't correct him. She just replied, I prepared. Behind them, the elevator chimed. 2 security officers stepped in, silent, professional. No raised voices, no scene, just procedure, cold and efficient. Clara stepped back instinctively. You can't, Maya raised a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. Walk out with dignity. That's the only thing left you control. For a moment, Clara looked like she might argue, but she didn't. She straightened her blazer, lifted her chin, and walked toward the door. Every step echoed with the weight of her disbelief. When the glass doors closed behind her, the storm finally broke into sunlight. Thomas and Pierce followed quietly, one after the other, men who had once spoken with absolute certainty now reduced to silence. Maya exhaled. The tension in her shoulders eased. For the first time all morning, she allowed herself a breath that wasn't measured. Lucas watched her, still stunned. You didn't yell, he said. You didn't threaten. I didn't need to, Maya replied. Power isn't proven by noise. She turned toward the window. The rain had stopped completely. The city glistened, washed clean. Carla's voice came once more, softer this time. Everything's complete, Miss Carter. You have full control. Maya nodded. Then let's start rebuilding, with integrity this time. She placed her phone on the table and looked at Lucas. You're staying. He blinked. Me? You spoke up when truth needed a voice. That's leadership. His eyes widened. Thank you. Maya smiled slightly, but there was no triumph in it, only balance, the quiet satisfaction of equilibrium restored. In the reflection of the glass, the boardroom looked different now, emptier, brighter, and free of the weight it once carried. For those still standing, the lesson was clear. Justice didn't arrive like a storm. It arrived like sunlight after one. The storm had burned itself out. What remained was light gold, clear, unbothered. Sunlight washed through the boardroom, spilling across the glass table where power had just changed hands. The skyline beyond shimmered like it, too, had been reset. Maya stood by the window, arms folded loosely. Her reflection merged with the city below. One woman, one empire, both reclaimed. Lucas lingered by the door, still unsure whether to speak. The silence felt sacred now, too full to disturb. When he finally did, his voice was barely above a whisper. You really own all of it? Maya turned, her expression calm. Ownership isn't about papers, Lucas. It's about responsibility. That's why I didn't announce it. I wanted to see who acted like they deserved to lead. He nodded, still taking it in. They'll talk about this. They should, she replied. That's how systems learn. Behind her, the projector screen still glowed faintly. The final line of text remained frozen there. Carter Holdings verified. Maya walked over, pressed the button, and the screen faded to black. The hum of the machine stopped. The quiet that followed wasn't empty, it was earned. She took a long breath. For the first time all morning, her voice softened, carrying something warmer than control. People think power changes who you are. It doesn't. It just exposes it. Lucas watched her, eyes filled with respect that wasn't about title anymore. I'll remember that. Maya smiled. Don't remember me. Remember what not to ignore next time. He nodded again. What happens now? Now, she said. We rebuild. From truth up. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Carla. Board actions completed. Legal confirmation scheduled for 3 p.m. Maya typed back. Thank you. Begin HR transition for equity review. She set the phone down and walked toward the head of the table, the seat that had stayed empty all morning. She rested her hand on the back of the chair but didn't sit yet. She looked at the space as though remembering every moment she'd been told she didn't belong in one like it. And then Saturday, the chair didn't creak. It didn't resist. It accepted. Outside, the clouds thinned until the city gleamed. Below, taxis moved like veins of light. Somewhere, someone was probably telling the story already. A black CEO walked into a meeting and flipped an empire without raising her voice. Maya glanced at Lucas, who still stood by the door. Go home early, she said. You've seen enough history for one morning. He smiled faintly. Yes, ma'am. When the door closed, she was alone. The same stillness that had once been suffocating now felt like peace. She looked down at her hands, the same hands that had been refused a handshake hours earlier. They were steady now, sure. She whispered, mostly to herself, "They'll remember the silence before they remember the sound." She stood, walked back to the window, and watched the sunlight scatter across the city she now fully owned. Her reflection in the glass looked different, not triumphant, not angry, just complete. Her voice, quiet but clear, filled the room one last time. "I didn't raise my voice," she said, almost like a prayer. "I raised the standard." For a heartbeat, it was just her and the hum of the city. Then the camera, imaginary or real, would fade to white. Text on screen. Justice doesn't shout. It stands tall. The image froze there for a moment longer, letting the message sink in before the fade-out. And when the story ended, the light stayed.